So now, ladies and gentlemen, live and in colour, it's Mr. Wayne Lovejuice.
The other day our producer Louis had a chat with an interesting chappie who said that the YouTube algorithms really aren't that happy. If a channel only broadcasts once a week, so we decided we could text ya whenever we've got a piece of news in our new book on the track Xtra. ASSAP, the Association for Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena, was founded in 1981 and is generally considered to be one of the most important Fortean organisations in the world. They recently had their annual conference, and Richard Freeman was there both as a speaker and to cover the event for CFZtv.
Here I'm interviewing Kristian Lander, who is a Fortean researcher and podcast host. And his talk was a valuable lesson in critical thinking because it deals with something that has been classed as a UFO case, but in reality had a much more mundane explanation. Right, and we're here at the University of Bath at the ASSAP conference, and this is Kristian Lander. And Kris, can you tell us a bit about your talk today?
So yeah, I'm talking about an incident that happened in Nottinghamshire. It's called the Thunderbolt incident, and it is a case that finds itself sat in ufology and I think has a much more grounded explanation in the end when you bring around the more likelihood of things that are happening in and around the case. But what is really interesting about the case is it sits as a UFO file that happened in 1987. It's gone completely under the radar, but it features every hallmark of ufology. So there is an incident that is seen in various forms in this sky. There's an object that appears to be doing manoeuvres over the lay of the land. It appears to do a loop-to-loop. It's seen manoeuvring, and it is seen to be struggling. There's an explosion in the sky. The object is then seen to collide with a building. It's then seen to collide with another building. It's then seen to come into the local woods. It then takes off again and then comes down a little bit closer to Amersley Hall, which I guess has its own stories. Following that, there's a military response. 45 minutes later, there's Chinooks in the air. There's a Chinook in the area, and there's gazelles and lynxes looking for this particular location. However, what's really interesting is that they then lock the area down for 4 days. So this entire area north of Nottingham, an area called Kirkby and Ashfield, is then locked down by the army, the fire service and the police service. They lock this entire area down. No vehicles are able to come in or out. So it sits as a prime example of every mark of ufology. However, it's literally gone under the radar. It came by my way as two people told me of their experiences with that case. One was a bus driver who told me he followed a military HGV recovery vehicle that was flanked by military vehicles out of the area, and another was a lady who was in her bedroom, and what she described was she thought it was actually an aircraft, a jumbo jet that she thought had crashed outside into the grounds because the explosion was that loud. There's a significant number of damages, buildings that were damaged, fire, scorched many buildings, many roofs, trees, and there was a person with a very, very unique perspective I'm going to talk about in our talk. But from this case, I've been able to piece together more information. The people who repaired those buildings, the people who actually were the fire service, the fire marshal and the attending officers, I've got their testimonies to what happened that day, and they paint a very interesting and different picture. The government has its own secrets to play in this, and I think are going to play out in a really intriguing way today in my talk.
So, is the upshot of it, do you think this was something being tested by our military, or was it a foreign power?
No, It's more of a case of what was the response of the military is actually one of the key cruxes. So we appear to have a definite military response. That is definitely in the case of the local records. The 52 people whose testimony have managed to get recorded, the military response is accurate and is done. However, it's 45 minutes later, and what they respond with is a Chinook helicopter dropping off troops and a Gazelle. Sorry, as you said, it's described as being several Gazelle-like helicopters. It turns out they're Gazelles and Lynxes. So they were, with their powerful spotlights, looking for something. That is not, if we are to believe that this is a ufology case and this was a craft from our own, or whether it was a craft from wherever, that wouldn't be the response. I actually managed to get hold of a military defence document from 1987 about the tactical response interception of a foreign bogey, what vehicle we would send, and how they would deal with maintaining air superiority. And these are recovery vehicles. They are clearly looking for something they know to be there, and this is a recovery operation of something they know has now crashed. So it was not an interception, and I think that actually plays into the story in a really intriguing way. And I'd like you to know more.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'll look forward to it. Thanks a lot.
No.
Richard will be back in next week's On the Track Extra with more from the ASSAP conference. I've just noticed something very peculiar and ever so slightly Fortean when listening to Richard's conversation with Kris for the first time. The story which he tells is horribly similar to the plot of my first novel, The Blackdown Mystery, which was written over 20 years ago and published, can't remember when I published it, I think it was published 22 years ago. And the big thing about The Blackdown Mystery is that I made nearly all of it up. And in a weird example of life imitating art, the same scenario, or very, very similar scenario, played out a decade and a bit before in Nottinghamshire. As I said, Richard will be back next Wednesday, and I'll be back on Saturday at 3 o'clock when we will be talking about some of the things which the CFZ 2022 expedition to Sumatra discovered. So, until then, be seeing you.